I would say just for this conversation, just for this telco and 5G, I would call you a third party consuming data services, and the APIs around it, data provisioning or data deprovisioning, increasing and decreasing the bandwidth, or for any application. Maybe you want to create a value-add services, consume this API. That infrastructure that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So maybe you want to explore that, because these are the conversations that we are having. A new whole set of third parties are actually coming in.
Correct.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Let's Get Real with APIs. My name is Bharat Kumar. I'm the founder and CEO of DigitalAPICraft. I've been in the API business for about 8 years now, and I love doing this podcast, talking to multiple startups and founders having the business run on APIs. Today we have Siddharth Mathur from Fastah, Fastah. They're IP geolocation data services via APIs, and they're monetizing it, and they're available on AWS API Marketplace and Azure. Welcome to the podcast, Siddharth. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining.
So thanks for having me, Bharat. So like you said, Fastah, spelled Fastah, is a IP geolocation API provider. That's one product, and we provide it through cloud marketplaces for developers to consume worldwide. And you might have known this product category for a while. What it helps e-commerce companies, for example, Amazon.com or Amazon.in.
That sounds like a great business, and it's all powered by APIs. And it's a true API monetization product. It's a true new age API economy. That's a new revenue. That you have seen this opportunity and created this. That's perfect. Congratulations on the business. So tell us about your background and how did it start?
So I have been networking, data networks, and a performance guy for a while. I am a self-professed networking nerd and a performance nerd. And I worked on developer experiences and developer runtimes at Nokia R&D on Nokia smartphones, and worked on WebKit, which is the browser engine which powers Safari and previously Chrome. So as far as web standards go and how developers look at stable runtimes and interfaces in order to make fun applications for all of us, that has been something that I've been very passionate about and also quite informed about on what makes developer platforms and runtimes fly in terms of quality, predictability, the ability of the developer to focus on the creative bits and not on the plumbing, right? So the fun happens in the application layer when you take out the grunt work from the life of the developer. So those are things that I'm passionate about. I have been personally involved in the runtimes or the developer facing API which hides those runtimes for a while, especially on smartphones. So networks, smartphones, performance, and APIs are something this is the intersection that I'm passionate about, and Fastah API is basically networks and APIs brought together in something which is monetizable.
That sounds like a great background and great combination. To have a passion with, that's all a prime focus right now. Which is all driving the new economy, especially with the 5G coming in, network, things like that. So if you go back to the API economy, that we were just talking about developer experience, developer having tools in different stages of the whole software development life cycle, and I was just talking about in my previous podcast. There are about 26.8 million developers in the world today. As per the report of 2021, developers will go to be 40 million, 45 million, which is going to be more than the population of California. So there are products by developers for the developers. The developers are a new age customers for enterprises. So that's the message I've been carrying and hearing in different panels and different there's a devoted panels and sections talking about the emphasize the importance of developer tools. So it seems like you built a great technology stack. So IP profiling, it's been there for quite some time.
Correct.
Right? How are they doing differently now, and how are they doing before? Maybe want to talk about that a little bit.
So, from Fastah's perspective, there are two things. One, like I said, developer oriented, right? Like we want to sell to larger organizations, not necessarily indie hackers. I mean, I am an indie hacker myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not speaking that as an uncharitable thing. It's just that our product positioning and our product velocity is for purchasers and developers working with these large clouds. So like I said, we want to focus on the data quality as a differentiator, and we are working on how to showcase that better during the onboarding and giving them command line tools that they can try themselves on their Windows PowerShell or their Linux or their Mac terminal, so that they can benchmark us quickly against the other competitors in terms of data quality. Right?
So these customers, they always use multiple profiling services.
No, they have not.
They have not. Okay.
They usually pick one and then they stick to it for a few years.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so data quality and user experience in context to the cloud that you're working on are
Is
things
this
that we
what
want to
differentiates?
differentiate against.
Okay. Okay. So I was talking to we were in conversation with Nokia, some of the leadership there, and then 5G is coming up, right? In the whole in the world of telco, the 5G is kind of doing another big revolution. 3G and 4G, kind of created billion-dollar companies, with just APIs, right? So Uber, Twilio, just APIs. Twilio built billion-dollar companies, as you know, right? Now 5G coming in, there's a lot of IoT drone companies, a lot of use cases are coming into the play, and they all want to consume the data, heavy data, transform and transfer the data at an enormous speed, right? They want to consume the data, right? Do you see that's one of your new market that can open up?
Yeah, we want to do something in that area as a second API product, not necessarily the IP
The IP
location
location.
product. Because, like you said, there are some peculiarities in how software architectures will evolve to make use of those evolutions that you mentioned. Computing will move closer to the user
Correct.
in terms of edge computing, quote unquote. It's a widely overused and abused term,
Correct.
but it does mean that you should have a lower latency connection as a user, or
Correct.
even a machine. Even if you're a machine using a private 5G to talk to a computer or a server, that server should be closer to that machine
Correct. Yeah.
than hitherto has been possible with traditional software architecture and network architecture. So yes, so the big picture is you have to help developers, app developers,
Correct.
intelligently place their servers or their edge computing infrastructure. So either the machines talking to their servers or the users talking to the servers are served from the nearest, geographically nearest edge location that they can be at. And you'll see AWS, Azure, Cloudflare. Cloudflare is putting out good software in this area. There's a lot of rethinking on what APIs at the edge mean, for example, right? Computing in general at the edge, and even in our area, which is API products, how can APIs be served? 90% of the API should be served at the edge without having to go back to a mothership
Correct.
server
Yeah.
somewhere in Europe or Bombay or Singapore or whatever. So there is a lot of architectural shift required in software to keep up with those 5G, private 5G, globally distributed server nodes, which are becoming cheaper, more affordable.
Correct.
And the programming constructs required to use those things are still evolving. They're not mature.
They're not matured. Consuming data directly from CSPs, network providers, operators. It's actually the infrastructure that they are working on.
Correct.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And for every public API like ours, there'll be 1,000 private APIs.
Correct.
Right? Like a large carrier or an operator like Geo will have their own APIs that only share with 50 organizations.
Correct. Yeah.
Right, and a API consulting company will help them do that.
Correct.
So there'll be a million internal, semi-internal, semi-private, pan organization API frameworks and marketplaces, private marketplaces. So there will be a huge amount of modularization of the software, which is what this whole thing is about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were talking about abstraction at every layer, right? So both abstraction is helping the modularization drive it. So there's more and more reusable components coming in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's all about reusability within
Yeah.
the organization,
Within the organization.
with partner
Yeah.
organizations,
Yeah.
and of course with third-party
Correct,
ISVs
yeah.
and third-party orgs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a huge industry and ecosystem that is going to be built around this sharing of data.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
securing it, access controlling it,
Yeah, yeah.
making it performant,
Yeah.
the whole shebang.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
a lot of opportunity and really exciting.
Yeah. You can do run all the compliance checks.
You can run
Yeah.
the performance checks.
Do your customers run
checks,
it?
Boom, you're done, huh?
Do your customers run any compliance checks
They do.
before?
So thus far they haven't done any in-depth privacy checks because they know that our API barely connects anything. And even if you do have an IP address without time, device ID or some other identifiers, that by itself is not PII.
Yeah.
So our API has a very small footprint thus far, but maybe in the future, even when we design APIs as a software architecture or a product management decision, we will try to keep the footprint extremely small in terms of what we need from the consumer of the API to pass on to our boundary or our boundary.
Yeah.
We don't want you to give us stuff.
Yeah.
Or if you want some device ID, we will obviously make sure it's a hash at the consumer side so that they're giving us, a SHA-256 hash of a device
hash
ID.
of device ID.
Just to tell us that this device ID is different from the other API calls device ID, but no more information than that.
Got it.
So there are good ways to
protect yourself and then
software
still
boundaries.
boundaries and still fall within the safe
Absolutely. So for banks and like anybody who's doing B2B SaaS for enterprises or banks and financial security, you have to be careful
correct
about very thoughtfully designing your interfaces
correct
so that you are not doing things which will get you into trouble. And humans are fallible.
Yeah.
So don't design yourself to be
Correct.
falling unintentionally over
Yeah.
at either end of your partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think so that's a good thing because there's a very whole level of complexity that comes into play when you're actually dealing, with sharing of the data, right? Yeah. Let's move on to a couple of questions on your future. What are you looking at creating your own API marketplace, which eventually the customers can actually come to your marketplace. Customers can come in and find our APIs, create that experience rather than on the cloud marketplaces.
Fastah wants to create its own intellectual property in the API. So we don't want to be a clearinghouse. So if you think of, say, Rapid API, I think of as a clearinghouse. They help you build, obviously, so they are a monetization enabler, but they don't have a first-party API, for example, or data sources that they cleanse and value add and then expose to the user as an API. So we don't want to be a Rapid API type thing, right? So that's not our vision. We want to be a intellectual property driven API company, and we're good at networks, data networks, like I explained, and our DNA is in that. So we'll keep our newer products evolving around the data networks performance area, again to help developers build richer, faster experiences. But we want to build APIs directly to the consumer and not be a clearinghouse. So we will use clearinghouses ourselves. We are on Rapid API, for example, also.
Correct. Yeah.
But we don't want to operate brand and enable our own marketplace, and that's okay with our strategy and where we originate from in our cultural DNA or founder DNA, so to speak.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So for small teams, founder DNA is all that is, right?
Correct. Yeah.
There's no other DNA.
Yeah.
So that's how we see it.
Yeah, no, we all learned this from our interaction with SaaS Boomi caravan events that happened a month ago. So that is absolutely correct. Yeah. So.
But for larger organizations, like I said, marketplaces will come in many forms.
Correct.
They'll come as private marketplaces within a large org, and many teams from multiple countries within that large org will collaborate and gatekeep them. And I see things like this Azure API management, AWS API gateway, they are being used.
As one of those own times, yeah.
They are being used as captive
Yeah.
clearing houses. They don't have the monetization part built in, but then you only need that if you're running a public marketplace.
Public marketplace.
Not an internal marketplace.
Correct. Yeah.
For partners, which you're going to bill through an invoice anyways,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, but eventually when you scale it, that's what we do as part of it, right? So when we have done quite a bit of monetization use case, API monetization, various forms of it, right? So there's a lot of complexity involved, when it comes to monetization. How do you collect the number of API calls? How do you collect? How do you based on data downloaded, based on data that you uploaded, right? There's all forms of it, and again, there's a different runtime involved in it. So that's what that's the reason, and I asked you, what is your take on that? That particular set of tooling and all, creating that.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's what we're solving.
Yeah.
That's what we're building.
So
yeah.
Our experience is that your pricing strategy.
Yeah.
Since we're an ISV,
Correct.
pricing is obviously very key to us. If you're a large org doing friendly organization APIs, you don't care for pricing as much. But we, as an independent company sold on third-party platforms, we want to have metered billing in our core product matrix.
Yeah.
So we have a base fee and an overage fee.
Overage fee.
We keep the overage fee flexible and fair because developers don't know how much they're going to consume.
Correct.
But we do have certain minimum commitment levels. So you're right. Depending on how you're selling or not selling the API, metering matters.
Yeah.
Consumption-based billing may matter.
A different flexibility around the rate plans and packages.
And like you said, tallying them up and making sure they're authoritative and correct and fair. All of those are key product management decisions.
Correct.
Which must happen.
And at some point, you might have to take in on how do you want to automate that process of. Yeah.
So beautiful area, messy area.
Yeah.
And the answers have to be contextual to.
Absolutely.
Who's your user?
Correct.
Are you paying? Is the user paying for your API?
Correct.
Is it just like a annual invoice that a friendly organization is paying?
Yeah.
Then you don't need product management to be involved.
Correct. Yeah.
So there are many flavors of it. But
Correct.
you're right. This is an important area.
Yeah.
Depending on how you sell.
Yeah. So recently, we've been working with one of our telecom operator, South American big operator. They've been having business probably like more than 10 to 12 countries. That's what I said. And they have this multiple rate plans and packages they want to offer, and they want to connect to different billing systems. So we recently demoed the product. So they've been off the product, something that can do out of the box. And I don't want to have one runtime. I want to have multiple runtime, multiple billing engines. I want to have create my own rate plans packages for different regions.
Yes, that's a big mess.
Yeah, that's a big mess.
But also an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
It's like a channel, right?
Exactly.
If you're selling a different country channel, technology channel,
correct.
Ecosystem channel. All these are kind of distribution channels, and you have to optimize your pricing, billing, metering.
I mean, it's
all of those.
And they don't want to worry about investing on creating their own, a product like this, which needs to be continue to evolve. It's a product play, right? That's what we've been advising to enterprises.
Yes.
When you are building in your own API marketplace, right? Any marketplace. Look out for products, so we've seen in my experience, we built such marketplaces as services, and still, they're not happy there.
No, I mean, any software or any business process, it requires a lot of ownership.
Yes.
From business owners.
And they don't have to run the whole IT, department there,
Yes.
It's a product company running inside a telco, running inside a financial institution.
Yes.
So you don't have to do that. Yeah.
But yes, I mean, again, like you said, if they want different billing engines and different pricing models, they obviously have to own that organizationally.
Yeah.
So there has to be executive sponsorship of that
Product
as a
correct.
product
For as a product offering.
As a repeating revenue.
Yes. And how much I'm investing on it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So the trouble you take in making your pricing effective for the channel you're selling through is obviously part of the job, right?
What are my returns there? Am I going to invest on what, 200K
So your
to get what, $10,000?
Commensurate to the trouble you're going to take internally as the owner, either the product owner or the business owner for that API journey.
Thank you, Siddharth, for joining me on this podcast. It's a wonderful discussion, brilliant, great ideas, thoughts around APIs and monetization. Particularly learning about the new API economy, new age businesses. So just to zoom out a little bit, we touched upon how IP geolocation is kind of evolving, various use cases, what's the compliance required there, what's the kind of innovation they're doing, what's the kind of developer experience they want to bring in. A great developer experience is what the key DNA of the product. Wish all the best to Fastah. Hope to see you in your next growth phase of your growth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to have
Yeah.
me on the show, so much appreciated.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the API economy growing in all its forms.
Yeah.
So good fun.
Yeah.
And wish you all the best too.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.